All right, so let's continue with the guard cells. We are saying these guard cells are a pair of cells that surround the stoma. And the function of the guard cell is to control the opening and closing of the stoma. And the adaptations which these guard cells have is, number one, they occur in pairs, and each cell has a semicircular curved shape when it is turgid. To be turgid, it means it has gained water like that, all right? And it becomes straight when it is plasmolized. So to be plasmolized, it's more like the cell is losing water. So the cell walls are thicker around the stoma than anywhere else. So these are the adaptations for these guard cells. So we are able to see our guard cells, which control the opening and closing of the stoma. And then we have our stoma there on the middle. So when this guard cell becomes turgid, when it gains water, it's going to open the stoma like that. But when it loses water, it becomes plasmolized, meaning it is going to close the stoma. All right. Having said that about the guard cells, I want us to move on now to the phloem cells as another example of a specialized cell. So the phloem cells are the ones that are responsible for the transportation of manufactured food from one part of the plant to another. So the adaptations which the phloem have is the end walls between the neighboring cells are perforated to form sieve plates. Apart from that, the protoplasm is partly lost, leaving behind some cytoplasmic strands. And the last adaptation we have is the presence of the companion cells, which supply the phloem cells with enzymes and ATP. So those are our companion cells like that. And we have our sieve plates and we have our sieve tube. All right. Having that said about the phloem cells, which transport the manufactured food substances from one part of the plant to another, we also have the palisade cell as another example of a specialized cell. So these palisade cells helps to carry out photosynthesis. How? They have these adaptations. They have a high concentration of chloroplasts, and we know these chloroplasts contains chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is the one which helps to trap light for photosynthesis. And then the cells are longer vertically than horizontally. This allows chloroplasts to migrate upwards or downwards as light intensity changes so that they cannot be damaged by excess light. So this is our example of a palisade cell. We are able to see these brown looking structures. So these are the ones that we call the chloroplasts, and the chloroplast contains chlorophyll. That's our vacuole. We have our cytoplasm, we have our cell membrane, we have our cell wall, and then we have our nucleus, we have our tonoplast, and we have our vacuole there. All right, having that said, now I want us to look a little bit on cell organization. So this is what we need to know. So a group of cells, a group of similar cells makes up a tissue, all right? A group of tissues makes up organs. A group of organs makes up systems. A group of systems makes up an organism. And we know to say there are a lot of systems which we have in the body. Examples, we have the skeletal system, the digestive system, the endocrine system, the excretory system. I'll pretend I never said that. Now let's go to a past paper question that we can attempt on specialized cells. So under specialized cells, there is this past paper question which came in, I should believe, 2018. All right, 2018. So question 1 says, figure 1.1 and 1.2 show specialized cells E and F. So we have this cell and this cell. All right, and these two cells are our specialized cells. So the first question says, identify the cell labeled F in figure 1.2. So they want us to identify this cell labeled F. And from the lesson which we just had, we know to say this cell is a phagocyte cell. Now let's go to A2. A2 says which feature in the diagram enables you to identify cell F in A1 above. So what has helped us to identify to say this is a phagocyte cell? So we are able to see our nucleus, which is lobed, right? We said this lobed nucleus is what phagocyte cells contain, all right? So the presence of our lobed nucleus, that is the feature which helped me to identify. And then apart from that, we are also able to see this small structure which is looking like a germ. So we are able to see to say, okay, this cell is digesting this germ here. So we'll know to say, okay, this is our phagocyte cell. And then B says, in figure 1.1 shows a group of similar cells. What term is used to refer to such a group of cells? So a group of similar cells make up a tissue, right? So here the answer is tissue. And then B2 says, suggest a region in the human body where figure 1.1 is found. So what is figure 1.1? I'll give you 10 seconds to identify it. Okay, I'm sure you are done. So you and I will both agree to say this is our ciliated cell. What has helped us to identify to say this is a ciliated cell? We have the presence of these cytoplasmic hairs, which we call the cilia, and that is our cell membrane. We have our nucleus there. So now they are asking in the question to say, where is this ciliated cell found, or the region in the human body where it is found? Since it is 1 mark, they just want us to state one. So you can either say in the oviduct in females or in the respiratory tract. So you can choose any of those two answers. When you put oviduct, just put that one alone. When you put respiratory tract, you've put that one alone. Now, B3 says, give one function of the part labeled G in figure 1.1. So they want us to give the function of this part labeled G, which is the cilia. We said the cilia helps to sweep out mucus containing dust, particles, and germs. So that is in the respiratory tract. If we are dealing with the oviduct, we said it helps to move the ovum towards the uterus. So you can choose any of those two answers to put on this sub question. So let's go to C1 and 2. So C says, state 2 specialized cells that are found in plants. So we know in plants we have the root hair cells and we also have the guard cells. And then for one named specialized cell in C1 above, explain its function. All right, I'll pick the simplest, which is the root hair cell. So the root hair cell helps to absorb water and mineral salts. It means we are done with our question on specialized cells. So this marks the end of our lesson on specialized cells. If you have any questions, please leave a comment so that I can see your question so that we can move at the same pace. May God bless you and have a pleasant evening.